Hi and welcome. I'm Steve Martorano, and this is the Behavioral Corner. You're invited to hang with us as we discuss the ways we live today, the choices we make, the things we do, and how they affect our health and well-being. So you're on the corner, the Behavioral Corner. Please hang around a while. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Behavioral Corner. It's me, Steve Martorano, hanging as I do here on the Behavioral Corner. If you're just joining us for the first time, shame on you. Real quickly, what we are about is the business of everything, because after all, everything affects our behavioral health. It's all made possible by our underwriter partners, Retreat Behavioral Health. You'll find out more about them down the road. We have just completed two of a theme concerning behavioral health that center on music. We've touched upon music and show business many times here on the corner. And this is sort of the third in a set of three that talk about music and what it means to people and their behavior and their mental health and well-being. So if you haven't heard the other two, they're up on the website. By the way, the website is more than a website. It is a library. And there's, over 150 of our previous programs. Please, at your leisure, behavioralcorner.com, go into the library, go through the shelves, you'll see pictures, little descriptions. Some of those shows may mean nothing to you. We hope many others do. Avail yourself to them. It's a free library, okay? Behavioralcorner.com. Okay, the third in our trilogy of music hath charms to soothe the savage. It's breast, by the way, not beast. And joining us to talk about his life in music, Kenn Kweder. Real quickly, there's a Kenn Kweder, I would guess, in most cities. Not to say that our Kenn Kweder is not unique, but all Kenn Kweders are unique. Kenny is among those group of people who have, and we'll find out why, chosen to sing for their supper. He's a troubadour in the truest and oldest sense of that word. He has been for 30 years performing in venues large and small in his home area, which is the Philadelphia and the Delaware Valley, but all over the world and country as well. And he joins us now to talk about a life in music. Hello, Kenn.
Hey, Steve. Great to reconnect with you. Very good.
Well, yeah, thanks. Kenn and I passed briefly, but closely, longer than we care to remember, long time ago. And for a lot of different reasons, there's sort of been a psychic connection over the years. At least I think there's been. So I'm glad to have him on the program after a long time. So Kenn, you know what we do. We talk about our behavioral health. It sometimes seems like the golden age of crazy. So anything we can do to help people make their way through an often nutty time, we do, and we think music is an important part. We know it is. In any event, let's begin with, for those people who do not know who Kenn Kweder is, tell me who Kenn Kweder is.
I'm a musician presently and have been for about 47 years. I started off back in 1970 or something like that, in the early 70s, and I was a folk singer. I tried to be a poet. That didn't work out too well. Then I got back to folk music. Then all of a sudden, someone convinced me to do rock and roll, and that would be like the mid 70s. And I started writing a lot of songs and put out a lot of different independently produced albums and CDs, whatever. And I've been performing almost nonstop since the mid 70s in the general Philadelphia area, sometimes New York, lots of times in Jersey, Maryland, Delaware, on occasion in Europe, pretty much being my own manager, which is sort of, when you manage yourself, it's like a two-headed project. There's one Kenn Kweder who performs, then there's the other guy who's pretty detail oriented to make sure that Kenn Kweder performs. So that's what it's a juggling act. So,
being your own manager. Remember the thing about lawyers, the lawyer who is his own representative has a fool for a client. It's a rare guy that can both manage the career and have the career. Congratulations.
Yeah, I think.
Does your manager self always make the right decisions?
Not at all. I mean, technically, but I've made a couple wrong decisions, but the thing is, it wouldn't behoove anybody to manage me, because the amount of money is not exactly going to break the Fort Knox Bank. It's still pretty much on the financial level as it was, 30, 40 years ago. But that's why I work 5 nights a week.
Well, I'll tell you something, and that's one of the reasons I find what you do is interesting. And I think, look, it would be great if Taylor Swift wanted to come on my podcast. That'd be good, or Bruce, or any of those people, and I would get that kind of mega take on what you do. But there's really no difference between what you do and what they do, except several hundreds of millions of dollars and worldwide fame. You're still doing basically the same thing. So I appreciate the fact that you're close to the ground. You manage yourself, and there's no other word for it, the hardest working man in show business. You are working. You don't care where the gig is. If it suits you, you're there playing. And I think I really do think you're in your element for sure. Let me back up though. To what inspired a life in music? Were you musical as a kid? Was there music in the family? Musicians? What?
Well, I mean, from the beginnings of my ability to perceive reality, or whatever you want to call it, like 5 years old, 6, both my parents were very much into music. My mother, to be honest with you, was pretty much thought she was Judy Garland. My father was completely enamored by Frank Sinatra. So on the weekends, I heard a lot of Sinatra and Judy Garland being sung every weekend. And through the week, my mother, of course, was really like into the Judy Garland thing. So I thought that it was kind of silly in the beginning, but as I was growing up, my first love and passion was basketball. I was a basketball player. But when that fell apart, I just decided to just kind of emulate my parents in terms of what they found meaningful, which was they both loved music. They weren't musicians. My mother was a homemaker. My father had a scrap metal business, and but on the weekend they really kind of like acted out their own fantasies in music. So I guess way I was like, trickle down effect from the tree of my parents, became a musician full fledged.
Yeah. So you're self-taught in terms of playing guitar?
Yeah, I taught her. I watched other people. I literally memorized a program on PBS in like 1967. Once I finished my dream of being a basketball player, every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. there was a woman named Laura Weber who taught folk guitar, and I memorized. It was a half-hour show, and I memorized those shows, and I finally. That was without a guitar. I bought a guitar with S&H green stamps after I saved them up after like the 4th or 5th program, and then went to work just going through my memory, what she was teaching, and continuing to watch her show for a solid year. I was religiously devoted to learning folk guitar,
Wow. S&H green stamps.
Yeah.
That was virtual. That was cryptocurrency before the term had been applied. I don't know if anybody outside of our area knows, but you used to get these little stickers at the supermarket after your purchases. You had a little book and you pasted them in the book. And when you had, probably in your case, 50 completed books and 4,000 stickers, you got yourself a guitar.
Got myself an inexpensive guitar, which I played constantly. It was like, it was my, once the basketball dream ended, I was like, I have to have some kind of identity in this planet Earth, It's a philosophical decision,
What croaked the hoops career? The fact that you didn't crack 6'5" and you.
Yeah. What happened? I was very good in my neighborhood. I was more like, there was I was kind of a hot dog player, Earl Monroe used to play near me, if you remember him. Mm-hmm. He was there. But no matter how good I was, and I practiced like 4 or 5 hours a day, 7 days a week, wore sneakers out every 2 weeks. Once I started playing within the city and different zip codes of the city, and I was going up against some guys that were just beyond my neighborhood. At that point, I got the memo that I wasn't going to make it gay. So it was sad, but then that's when I started saving up those S&H green stamps to go into the music thing. And first I played with the guitar was I would with the basketball courts, and I would play on the basketball courts with my guitar, and I would sometimes climb up on the basketball, where the rim was, the backboard. I would stand on the rim and play. I was trying to announce my brand new identity to all the hoop players in my neighborhood.
Yeah, I would guess that sort of hastened your departure from the courts too. Like get Kweder off the goddamn hoop and let's play some ball here. All right, so you were like, mom and dad were, regular folks that are working for a living, mom's at home, whatever. But you obviously have some kind of gene or spark that says, I need to entertain, I need to perform. You were looking for a spotlight early on.
Yeah, well, the thing is, you've heard this a million times, and I mean, once I saw like I had already seen the Beatles in '64, Ed Sullivan, and I was still doing the basketball thing or whatever. But that was always in the back of my mind. Roger Miller was really huge with me. Gene Chandler, like the Duke of Earl, like these early things are always in the back of my mind. And then along comes this guy Bob Dylan, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm still playing basketball, but while I'm playing basketball, I'm reciting Desolation Row, like on the basketball court. And, like the thing finally just took over my brain once the basketball dream evaporated. And so the Dylan thing, Roger Miller, those things just came to the forefront. And first songs I learned were like Dang Me, King of the Road, and Mr. Tambourine Man, stuff like that. So, it just was one of those things that just took over,
Yeah. It's hard to tell people, younger people anyway, the impact of seeing, being made aware of somebody like Dylan, or in my case, certainly the Beatles. These were inflection points in the culture. For me, I remember Presley. I remember coming home from catechism class, because I went to public school, and sitting down and saying, Sky's going to be on the Sullivan Show this week. I didn't know really who they were talking about, but I remember the Monsignor coming to the class and saying, "Why don't you go home? Tell your parents not to put the program on. This guy is devil."
Yeah.
So at the dinner table, my father, who didn't take a great deal of interest in music or anything, was minding his own business. When I announced, Monsignor says we shouldn't watch the Sullivan Show. In fact, we can't, as good Catholics. And he looked up at me and he went, "Who the hell is he to tell us what to watch in television? You can watch anything you want." I thought, well, all right. So that night I watched Sullivan. It changed my life. It didn't drive me towards music, performing, but it drove me to the music business. But I remember I'm watching him captivated, just like you when you realize Dylan's there. And my father enters the room and goes, "What the hell's that? Shut it off." Anyway, it's like, what is that idiot? Get him off. But yeah, these were big things. They for some people, they set you on paths of just pure enjoyment. I'm going to be into Dylan, or I'm going to be into the Beatles. And for many other people, it changed their lives, certainly in your case. Have you? And so you went on a really interesting trajectory. Lots of attention in the middle 70s, as I recall it. Potential record deals looming right in front of you. Very big star locally. You were on the cusp of something big, correct? Did you feel that way?
Well, yeah. I mean, I had struggled for a long time as a folk singer. And then once I put together a band with a bunch of original songs, for whatever reason, whatever style I was presenting at that time, I got a lot of recognition. And I got it from not just, people in my neighborhood, Center City, Philadelphia.
Yeah, no.
Kind of unusual, I guess. And then I got a manager named Bill Ive, who guided me and the band into some really nice clubs that were listening rooms so people could hear what I was trying to say musically. And the next thing you know, the word spread to New York, and then people came down from New York and came to see me. And everything was going according to plan, but then there was some kind of a hiccup. I knew Clive Davis came down from Arista Records, and he really enjoyed the show. But he and I had a difference of opinion on the quality of the songs I was writing. He felt that I should be less complex and more simple. And I said to him, I said, well, this is the way I write. I would be disingenuous to my calling in life to simplify stuff. And I don't think he was too excited about that response. I wasn't rude. I was just explaining my point of view. In touch, and I sent him some other stuff, but then it didn't work out, you know.
Yeah. Well, that stands in stark contrast to those other moments that you're familiar with, where a person in that position gets in front of the decision maker, and because the planets line up, they get their deal.
Oh yeah,
I mean, they get their deal. I mean, John Hammond, the legendary A&R guy at Columbia Records, who signed everybody from Billie Holiday to Bruce Springsteen, when Dylan's in front of him, okay, sign him. Springsteen gets in front of him, bang, sign him. You had that moment. By the way, you had that moment, and many, many, many other people in your position did not get that far. And for a number of reasons, as you say, there's that moment when the planets do not line up and the brass ring slips out of your grasp. But you kept on. Well, tell me what happens after that. I don't mean to dwell on, you didn't make it to the mix, but it's a key moment about how music sustained you after that. So tell me about that moment when it begins to sort of slip away.
Well, that was a difficult time because I really thought that like in others, Clive Davis wasn't the only one. There were other people that came along within like 12 to 18 months after that, and I went to New York. I did a lot of showcases, and we got close a couple times. I mean, the biggest one, of course, was Clive Davis, but you have to when I absolutely had to accept the fact that it probably wasn't going to happen. Mm-hmm. Wanted it to happen. That was a difficult time for me because I was extremely broke, and I was living in a flop house, and ended up being a parking lot attendant. And but still, even though I was a parking lot attendant, I still believed in myself. I parked cars figuring sooner or later the rhythm's going to come back in my direction. But I did the parking lot attendant thing, and then I bartended. But I still continued to play, but very little, because it's almost like a prize fighter gets to the championship, the opportunity to knock out the champion, and gets floored. And then you have to pick yourself up for a long time after that to get the chance to do it again. So I continued to believe in myself, although there was a lot of difficult times, Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I got back to full steam and put together a brand new band, Kenn Kweder and the Men from Kweder, stuff like that. But it didn't happen. It took 2 more years to really get back full steam ahead. And from that point, I really haven't stopped, Yeah.
Well, that period of time I want to talk about the other continuing and successful arc of your career, because this is for almost 50 years now and you haven't stopped. But that moment when you're struggling to recapture something, not specifically fame and fortune, but something that was you felt, that moment when you're trying to get back to that point. You say you're parking cars and doing this. Were you still playing? Was music the thing that sustained you during that period?
I still played music. I had burned out. You have to understand, I was a loudmouth, fairly arrogant guy back then. So I had burned out a lot of relationships with different clubs. Plus, Bill Ive and I were no longer working together. I had no manager. I ended up getting some management up in New York, but I continued to believe in myself. But there was a lot of doors shut. There actually was a few years later. There was a poster going around on South Street. A girl designed it because I was only doing about maybe 7 gigs a year at that point. And the poster said, Kenn Kweder, the easiest working guy in showbiz, because I couldn't play anywhere because I was not working, parking car. So, but in the meantime, I still believed that the rhythm was going to come around again, so the music did sustain me. I was still a big believer in Kenn Kweder, but my allies and band members, people were gone. They couldn't take the poverty scene. They got real jobs or whatever. But I still believed in it, no matter. It was almost like a religious thing, if that makes sense. Like it was almost like a religious zealotry or something.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
even though,
Well, again, what's fascinating about this is that most people, I think, just find themselves where they are. Oh, here I am. Here I am. This is what I have done, and others seem to have had a calling, even if they weren't consciously aware of it. They wound up where they're supposed to wind up because of this calling. Is that what was it like that for you? You felt this. I got to do this because I got to do this, right? Is that it?
the calling concept is absolutely central to my life. I believe that, because I had tried. I mean, you have to understand, I also at some point was working for the government, if you can imagine that. I mean,
what were you doing for the government?
I was making decisions on people's lives. It was nuts. It's like people pay their heating bills and, visiting people, like it was pretty cool. I mean, there's a lot of stories that went on with that gig. But I had to make a living because I was, no longer in the flop house. I was in like a sub flop house. So, but no matter where I lived, I still believed. My guitar was my cross, like the Christ on the cross was like, that was my thing. And so I'm a huge believer in calling, and no matter what the tribulations are, I just believe I was going to come out on the other side, no matter what. And I think in the beginning, the other side was worldwide fame. But as I got older and older, I was like, well, what about just local fame or just doing what you want to do, no matter how much rain comes down without an umbrella on my head? I'm just going to keep going because I'll tell you, I don't know how the universe is designed or threaded, but there are these things that are completely illogical that when you struggle, sometimes these beautiful things come, and I literally had what you might metaphorically say, guardian angels enter my life just when I was ready to just throw the towel in. Someone would come in and buy me breakfast somewhere, and then they would get me a gig. Like I didn't even know who these people were. Right when I was ready to throw the towel in. It happened many times.
Yeah. Every now and then the universe stops whatever it's doing and goes, give Kweder a break here for a second. Just throw Kweder a bone here. You got to keep him going. Well, you know what? I mean, it really is remarkable because again, as you approach your 50th anniversary doing this, there was a period of time where your dream looked like it was shattered. You had also, I'm sure, you can't be in the business you were in and not have been subjected is not the right, not in contact with the cliche about the business, which is sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Particularly focusing on the drug portion, drugs and alcohol. You did not have a problem with drugs and alcohol during your run up, nor the rough period. Have you thought about, because you've seen casualties, right? You thought about why that didn't happen to you? You didn't have a substance abuse problem?
The thing is, I did all that stuff, and I'm not a saint, but I was episodically, like, I would just, if I was bored, I might hang out with some guys doing what they're doing, One thing, like, I was never, like, I would do this episodically or whatever, but once that episode was over, it was like, bang, right back to the music. And I saw guys over the years, they got into the episode and they never got out of it. And these are guys I looked up to much better than me. And I'm like, what do you mean you're not playing? Like, I just, like, to me, like I say, I was not a saint. I'm still not a saint or whatever. But like the drug thing was I never was in, like, I did them, but like it was, sometimes I did them to try, like, you have to understand, I'm sure you probably read a lot of stories about like all the old jazz guys, and they got inspiration, which gave them the opportunity to enter, through the doors of perception and write a great song. That, of course, that happened or whatever. But that was a mythology that kind of like tantalized all of us rockers. Jimi Hendrix was doing acid, and then he wrote this song, and we believed it, But at some point, that only exists for a brief while. You stay on the drugs, and next thing, that door shuts permanently. So I never wanted the door to shut permanently, So because I looked at guys who I looked up to who were done, and I was at like 29 years old, 33. I'm like, not me, I don't,
It's happened to very, very, very successful people who struggled through it, and then some made it, and others, as you point out, did not. But that's a great and deep insight where it's tantalizing. Yes, all those geniuses seem to have been doing different substances, but if you played the tape all the way out, the end is always the same. It's always a train wreck or death. It's certainly a collapse of creativity. Have you ever given any, I know, well, I'll ask you flat out, have you ever given any thought to the therapeutic nature of music? Does it ever occur to you that not only is your music therapeutic to you, but maybe to your audiences?
Absolutely, because I could tell you a couple of things. I remember seeing Chris Christopherson at Irvine Auditorium in 1970 or 1971, and he said that, like, it may not seem like anybody's listening to you when you're playing, but somewhere all the way in the back of the room, you're making somebody fall in love, and you're removing somebody from boredom or the horror of something that took place earlier in their day. So I have always believed that I have to give 100%, because even if I play a lot of rooms where people don't necessarily look like they're listening, but at the end of the night, the people come up to you and they go, "Hey man, you made my night," and I'm like, because I'm just not going to phone it in, because there might be somebody in the back room, like Christopherson said, who you just saved from jumping off a bridge, and I do believe, like, I'm not saying I'm saying a lot of us guys, troubadours, robo troubadours who never stop, are like modern day witch doctors, sort of like we don't even know what the medicine is we're giving. We're just strumming a guitar or we're singing, that it's reaching somebody. Maybe it's only 8% of the audience, but they're going to go home and they're going to feel really good about something.
Yeah. Even somebody as brilliant, obviously, as Dylan, who kind of pushes those notions away. Oh, I'm just a songwriter. Oh, I'm just a singer-songwriter. Must know deep, obviously, in his soul, that if he were not giving something wonderful to people, he would stop doing it. Right? I mean, why would
I think that's why he's on tour like relentlessly.
Right.
I think, well, he's inscrutable anyway. So
yeah. You can't explain him, but it's interesting. I think most entertainers, particularly musicians, understand that there is something deep. Well, look, there's I don't know if you're familiar with a place called the Louis Armstrong Center for Music and Medicine at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. It's a huge division of Mount Sinai, the Beth Israel Hospital, that is dedicated to music and medicine, and how the two are intimately involved in one another. And they do all kinds of research on this. And one of the researchers said that summed it all up by saying, look, there's just something essential about music. And she said, particularly live music, that can help people. Do you feel that when you're in some bar playing in front of 15 people?
I'm always invested in the present tense, So, like, I mean, if you were to look at like 10, like, I'm always gigging, right? So if I do 10 gigs in the next 14 days, which is normal, each gig is totally, it's affected by the present tense. There's no set list. I look at people and I feel the temperature of the room, and I immediately try to go along with the temperature or what kind of faces I'm looking at. And so the present tense, the live performance, to me is a living arrangement of atoms that everybody in that room is, whether even consciously aware, unconsciously aware. I'm trying to, like, work with them. You never see me. I mean, it's like I cannot listen to my own music that's recorded on occasion, maybe just to relearn something I wrote. But I'm a big guy, and I love the live stuff. I like to see live people. Like, this sounds completely bizarre and crazy, but to me, like, one of the greatest performers of all time, because he was so unpredictable, Monty Rock the Third. Like I don't know if remember Monty Rock.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to me, Monty Rock's like my hero, right? So every show he ever did, I've ever seen on video, it's never the same. So I'm kind of like into the Monty Rock thing, so, like, just going back to Louis Armstrong, what they said about live music, I'm a big believer in that. I believe it's like, a big believer.
It's astonishing if you look at what the deep research is in the areas in which they're using it, and we're familiar with a lot of them. I mean, they use it in cancer treatment, in lots of mental health contexts. And yeah, that's a medical context. It kind of it can kind of suck the juice out of live performing, but it's the same process going on, whether it's a hospital or a bar, where a guy's playing and he's cheering up a handful of people who might otherwise have had a bad evening. Kenn does that for a living. You do that for a living, right?
That's what I do. Like I said, we're like, troubadours or bands, whatever. We're kind of like, I don't use metaphor like loose. I mean, like modern day witch doctors, without zeros and ones. I mean, I don't know. It's like I said, when we get back to the concept of the calling, I'm not trying to be a religious figure. I just feel like my job is to do that,
Yeah.
And, and like going into hospital, I've done in a hospice, I've done that, to maybe help somebody gently dissolve into the next world. I've done those things, and not for money, because I was asked to do it. And I said, if I can do it, I'll do it.
Tell me about your audience. That's Kenn has just an absolutely devoted following. You can see it on social media, or if you go to one of the shows. I mean, they just love Kenn. They're making some deep connection with you and your music. Are they the same people you've been playing to all along? Are they aging with the rest of us? They new kids? Who are they?
Well, I mean, I have this thing I've been doing. But first of all, the people from way back, a lot of them, you can't blame them. They're not coming out of their house because it's late. A lot of these gigs are late, and some of the bars are nasty. So some of those people still come out, and I am so, if I see them, I hug every one of them, and I hang on to them, and then you have people that just bumped into me 20 years ago, and they'll come out like every couple of months. They'll see a show. Then I have this younger generation at the University of Penn. I've been there for over 30 straight years, one night a week. And I have played to, I guess, so many different graduating classes from 1991 out there. What I do, if they make a request, like I do my goofy songs, whatever, and then they'll request, do you know, like Tyler Childers? He's like he's like a John Prine-ish newer guy, country guy, Zach Bryan. I learn these songs, I learn Miley Cyrus. I mean, I have fun with it. I have a good time. I mean,
you have a residency there at that bar on the Penn campus, right? Smokey Joe's?
Once a week in there for over 30 years. So, I communicate with the kids. I hand out like goofy Kweder stuff, stickers, magnets, Kenn Kweder Pez, and they come.
Well, wait. Show me you got a Pez dispenser with you?
I have a Pez. I have. Ready?
Yeah, let's see it. Look at that.
There he is.
Look at that. You know what? People get bobbleheads now. You can get them online, but how many people have their own Pez dispenser? I'm impressed. The older guys the older crowd that's following you.
Yeah,
my guess is, you correct me if I'm wrong, is that you are a link to their youth, and as long as you're up there singing and playing, they can remember 1974. Is some of that going on, right?
Well, depending on which audience, like the older audience.
You're old, the old timers.
And they feel a spurt of youth for a brief period there. Yeah, because anytime I'll do like a special event or something, whatever it is, like I have a band called Kenn Kweder and the Men from Wawa. So we do like the whole, like 40 years of Kweder writing, we whittle it down. And then you look in the audience and see people having seen from 1981, 1977, so they're out there. And these people, man, they're like in their 70s, some, they're like, I'm like worried that they're going to get hurt.
I read the other day, now there's a whole group of us who our age who take their drugs after concerts rather than before. So, there's a lot of that going on. But no, I do see that in folks like you and anybody that goes to concerts. They're holding on to something precious. And again, it's why we've been talking about music for the past couple of weeks here on the show. It is, we can get lost up in the glitz and the glamour and the $4,000 tickets and all that stuff. But there's something deeper and very important about what you do and what music's effect on people is. And it's like, well, things are crazy, and I didn't have a great week, but you know what? Somewhere Kweder's playing tonight.
I sort of represent chaos and like primal urge and like unstructured stuff. So people like that for all week long they're paying bills at work and doing it. Let's go see like what it was like 10,000 years ago before there was like gas companies and electric companies.
You are, by the way, for folks who are following along at home and are looking up Wawa. Wawa's a very gigantic convenience store here in the Northeast, and I guess they're spreading all over the place. But they're, a uniquely Delaware Valley thing. And Men from Wawa is a great title. The other thing, you have all kinds of you throw everything up at the wall and see what will stick, and some do and some don't. But you've got a big, and I hope to get this up on the website before it happens. But even if we don't, tell us about the Kenn Kweder press conference.
Oh, that's coming up this Saturday. What's today's right? So then it's going to come up in a couple of days.
So the 17th, is it the 17th?
Yeah, June 17th at 7 p.m. at a beautiful little theater called The Living Room on Cricket Avenue in Ardmore.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'll be doing. It's a 90-minute show. I wrote the entire show. Finishing up the editing now. I wrote like over 500 questions and it's like 500 crazy answers. I'm whittling it down to like 75 of the most ridiculous questions, but actually philosophical too. And then there's going to be a part where then there'll be a part where people are going to actually like put me on the spot and ask me probably painful questions that I'll try to mix that in with the stuff that I wrote. So, but it's a theatrical thing. We have like a guy coming out who's going to sort of give people information about who I am or who I was. And then I come out, there's a big press table, microphones, backdrop with like New York Times and Washington Post, Rolling Stone, all that. And then the show begins. And it's a lot of the people in the audience will be handed out questions. It's going to be a lot of fun. I don't know anybody else who's ever done this in Philadelphia, pulled this kind of stunt. It's like a stunt,
faux news conferences. You're on the cutting edge of a lot of that stuff. So, this is a ridiculous question. You see yourself playing until you just can't stand up anymore, right?
I do, because a lot of people I run into who are my age, they go, I see them at a bus stop and they'll go, "Are you still playing?" And I go, "Yeah," I go, "I'm on tonight. Why don't you come out?" And everybody's in their third dream or whatever. So of course we get into a conversation. They go, "What are you doing?" Like I go, "I'll stop." Here's my answer. I'll stop when I can't get out of my house.
Well, there you go. I'm telling you, there are lots and lots and lots of people who are trudging their way towards the end of the line, but gain some comfort and solace. And as I said, the thought of, hey, is Kweder playing anywhere this weekend? Let's go get a beer and see what Kenny's up to. Kenn, thanks so much. You've rounded out nicely our look at music and what it can mean to people and how life affirming it can be and how it keeps somebody like you out of trouble and happy. You seem like a happy guy.
I try to. Why not? It doesn't cost anything to spread it around,
Good for you. Kenn Kweder, if you're ever in our city here in Philadelphia, you will have no trouble at all finding out where Kweder is that night, because he'll be somewhere. Kenny, thanks so much, man. This is the first we've done this virtually. We got to do it for real.
Absolutely. I love you so much. Thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Our pleasure. Thank you all as well. Don't forget, like us, follow us, subscribe, the whole social media thing. It's the Behavioral Corner. We'll catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.
Retreat Behavioral Health has proudly been serving the community for over 10 years. Here at Retreat, we believe in the power of connection and quality care. We offer comprehensive, holistic, and compassionate treatment from industry-leading experts. Call 855-802-6600 or visit us at www.retreatbehavioralhealth.com to begin your journey today.
That's it for now. And make us a habit, hanging out at the Behavioral Corner. And when we're not hanging, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter on the Behavioral Corner.